Please, this is not an order. If you like the content, don't forget to like and subscribe our channel for more comments and discussions. Would a murder case involving teenagers between the ages of 16 and 19 intrigue you? If so, follow the progress of the case concerning the murder of Micaela Costanzo through this video. This dark affair started in March 2011. Micaela was a 16-year-old teenager who was greatly appreciated by her classmates and friends and had a good relationship with her family. She had a good character and was extremely popular with young people of her age. This young teenager excelled in several areas and was especially gifted in basketball and athletics. We can even say that she was the star of her school's basketball team. Her nickname in high school was Mickey, and she did not go unnoticed because everyone thought she was pretty, and she even worked for the school newspaper. Her case started when she disappeared on March 3, 2011. Micaela used to always message her mother when she finished school, but that day she didn't. Her mother called her several times, but there was no answer. Since Micaela was unreachable while she used to text when she had a change in her schedule but didn't, her mother knew something had happened to her and contacted the police. Micaela Costanzo attended West Wendover High School in the city of the same name, located in Nevada. She was last seen at 5 p.m. outside her high school. That day she had to walk home, which was unusual because she used to walk home with her sister. Her sister had to go to another city for business and could not bring her home from school. Before calling the police, her mother contacted her friends to see if they had seen her, but none seemed to have seen her. An investigation was quickly opened to find out the cause of the disappearance and find Micaela. As with all disappearance investigations, authorities interviewed everyone who was linked to Micaela. They interviewed all her classmates, her friends, her acquaintances, and the people she had last seen, but all claimed to have seen her for the last time outside of high school. In order to find the teenager, who appeared to have vanished into thin air, investigators assembled several search teams and focused on any areas of the city where she could be found. As with all disappearance cases, they assessed several possibilities regarding Micaela's disappearance. It was possible that she ran away, had an accident somewhere, or was kidnapped. The search lasted several hours without success. After 48 hours, investigators found clues that could move the investigation forward. A passerby found tire tracks that weren't there when they began the investigation, and he followed them as they looked suspicious. It turns out that the search for Micaela continued even in the desert surrounding the city. The investigators have not overlooked any places in order to be sure not to miss any crucial clues. The tire tracks led to a spot in the desert over 5 miles from town that appeared to contain traces of fresh blood. At the end of the path, where there were strange tracks, there was a suspicious mass covered with sagebrush. To the great surprise and fright of the passerby, below the pile of sand was a shallow grave with a body. When investigators and police arrived at the scene, they discovered that it was the body of Micaela Costanzo and that it was in a bad state. She had been stabbed several times in different places, and her face was all disfigured. One of Mickey's arms was tied with some kind of plastic tie. Micaela had been beaten savagely with a shovel, and her throat had been slit, that is to say, she suffered tremendously before she died. According to the place where the body was discovered and the state in which it was, the authorities deduced that Mickey had been dragged there by force and had been brutally killed to be finally abandoned in an isolated place. In order to find out how Micaela had left the school to end up in this place, the investigators began their research with the videos of the high school surveillance cameras. Surveillance cameras showed Micaela leaving school at 5:15 p.m., but no other clues could be found. After interviewing everyone connected to Micaela, the police reviewed and analyzed her call history and the messages she received prior to her death. Shortly before her disappearance, Micaela had repeatedly contacted Cody Cree Patton, who was her childhood friend and also her ex-boyfriend. As the last person to have contacted Micaela before her disappearance, Patton was considered the main suspect in his case. Another element that led investigators to consider him a suspect is that the videos from the cameras showed him with Micaela in the hallway of the school a few minutes before she disappeared. The first time Patton was questioned about this case, he claimed that he had last seen Micaela in front of the entrance to the school with her boyfriend, while all the other students interviewed claimed to have seen her at the back of the building. Thus, his remarks were contradictory to those of the other witnesses. Micaela and Cody had known each other since childhood and had grown up together. They were good friends but didn't often interact socially. Cody Cree Patton, 19, had a girlfriend, Toni Fratto, who was an 18-year-old devoted Mormon and popular in high school. She was doing her best to help him achieve his dream, which was to join the Marines. After dating for several months, Patton and Fratto decided to marry in a Mormon temple. However, not everything went the way they wanted. Cody had a violent argument with his father and had to leave his home. Fratto put him up in her family home, but her family didn't like it. After a while, Toni Fratto's family decided it was for the best that Cody stayed with them until he reconciled with his father and married Toni. The more time passed, the more the Fratto family considered him an integral member of their family. Toni Fratto was a very jealous person who did not accept that we touched what belonged to her. She couldn't stand seeing Mickey interact with Patton so often under the guise that they were childhood friends. Toni thought Patton was going to abandon her and replace her with Micaela, and she couldn't stand that. Patton knew that Toni was extremely jealous and continued to hang out with Micaela only to annoy Toni and watch her acts of jealousy. Fratto deeply hated Micaela and kept insulting her when she made it clear to her that she was not interested in Patton and that she already had a boyfriend. The more time passed, the more Fratto became convinced that Micaela was going to completely ruin her relationship with Patton. That's when the tragedy happened. You should know that there were several versions of the facts concerning the course of the murder, and we are not sure how Micaela was killed. The one thing everyone is sure of is that both Fratto and Patton were involved in her murder. We will now talk about the first version of the facts, which was established when Patton was first questioned as the main suspect. Patton didn't resist for long and ended up confessing to the police that he was involved in Mickey's murder. He said that he went for a walk with Micaela in the gravel pit to talk and clear their minds. However, they ended up falling out as Micaela asked him to break off his engagement with Fratto and stay with her. Patton got angry and punched her in the chest, causing her to lose her balance and hit her head hard against a rock. The teenager didn't know what to do as Micaela started having violent convulsions. So he took a shovel and hit her hard on the head to stop her convulsions, but she continued to make strange noises, and that's when slit her throat. After he was sure she was dead, he buried her in a hole and covered her with heaps of mugwort. Also, he got rid of her personal belongings by burning them. After confessing this, Patton was charged with the first-degree murder of Micaela and thus had a high chance of being sentenced to death. For his defense, he hired John Olson, a successful lawyer. Toni Fratto had been devastated by the course of events and had therefore promised Patton that she would fully support him. She therefore visited him regularly and called him often, telling him that she missed him. Just when everyone thought the case was closed, something unexpected happened. Fratto went to John Olson's office and confessed to a completely different version of events than Patton. Thus, Patton had not told the truth and had omitted important details. On the day of Mickey's murder, Patton had contacted Fratto to tell her that he had picked up Micaela from school. In an SUV they had rented, the three of them went to the gravel pit. Patton and Micaela got out of the car alone, and Fratto was waiting for them inside. Fratto had heard Micaela's screams and seen Patton push her, then she heard a loud thump and went to see what had happened. Micaela was unconscious when they put her in the grave they had dug, and then they kicked her and hit her with the shovel, ending up slitting her throat in turn. Because of these terrifying and disturbing confessions, Fratto, who had not even been considered a suspect during the investigation, was charged with murder and held without bond. For the trial in this case, Patton refused to plead guilty, while Fratto pleaded guilty to second-degree murder and testified against Patton, whom she had promised to support throughout her life. During the interrogation of Fratto by the police, she gave a new version of the facts that was completely different from that given to the lawyer. She claimed that Micaela had come unwillingly to the gravel pit and was terrified. Then she added that Patton had planned her murder in advance because he had sent her a message to tell her that he was going to get rid of Micaela. Fratto had stood guard while Patton punched Mickey. The grave had already been dug, and they both started beating her. Fratto claimed she only punched her in the shoulder, while Patton punched her in the head and slit her throat. In 2012, Toni Fratto was sentenced to life imprisonment, and she will not be able to be released on parole for 18 years. During Patton's interrogation, he also gave another version of the facts. He claimed Fratto insulted Micaela, and he suggested they meet and talk in order to reconcile, and that's when the drama happened. To avoid being sentenced to death for the murder of Micaela Costanzo, Patton pleaded guilty to first-degree murder. However, he sent a letter to the judge and told him that he was not guilty of murder as it was Fratto who slit her throat, but the judge did not believe him. He was therefore sentenced to life without the possibility of parole. After both were sentenced to life imprisonment, Tony Fratto once again gave a new version of the facts. She claimed she was coerced into the murder by Patton because he controlled and abused her from the start of their relationship. She was afraid that he would decide to kill her, so she helped him commit the murder and even sided with him when he was considered the main suspect at the start of the investigation. In the end, the two teenagers completely ruined their lives by killing an innocent young girl who had done nothing to them. We can clearly imagine the cruelty of Cotty Patton, who knew Micaela since he was a child and had no qualms about savagely killing her. It is not known exactly how Tony Fratto was involved in the murder because she changed her version of the facts several times, but one thing is certain: the fact that she participated in the murder of a person is unacceptable and unforgivable. They will have to repent all their lives in prison for the crime they committed. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel for more reviews and discussions. Thank you for watching.